Here's a video recapping lesson 83, which is on summations and series. So first, let me show you the notes. What is a series, and what does this big E symbol mean? A series is a summation of a number of terms from a sequence, so it's just adding up terms from a sequence. And that big E is actually the Greek letter sigma. It indicates a summation from the value below to the value above. So I'll give you an example manually, like by hand, and then I'll show you how to do it in your calculator. So let's start off with question number 4, which tells me to do 100 minus a from a equals 1. So let me highlight this in the order that you would read them. The function is 100 minus a. That's the function. This right here is my starting value. And I'm going to go all the way up to this 5 up here, which is my ending value or my last value. So I'm plugging in all the values from 1 to 5 into here. So a equals 1 is where I start. This is a. So I have 100 minus 1. Next, I have 100 minus 2, 100 minus 3, 100 minus 4, and 100 minus 5. Because I'm supposed to plug in from 1 all the way up to 5 for the value of a. Got it? So now that big E symbol tells me to sum them. So let's figure out what they are. This is going to be 99. This is 98. This is 97. 96, and this is 95. Thankfully, those were easy, and I didn't need to use my calculator, but I could have. Now I'm going to add these up. For that, I will use the calculator. 99 plus 98 plus 97 plus 96 plus 95. 485. So 485 is the sum of 100 minus a from a equals 1 to a equals 5. Now you can always do these manually. You can always do these by hand, but I'm going to show you, because I showed you in class, how to do these with the list function in the calculator. And for that, I'm going to go to example number 13. Now example number 13 wants a few more terms from us. So this right here is the function. Remember, this is my starting, and this is my ending. So we're going from 1 to 8. So let's do this manually first. I'll just show you what it looks like. I'm not going to add it all up. Negative 3 times 2 to the 1 minus 1 power. Negative 3 times 2 to the 2 minus 1 power. Dot, 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 dot. What are we going to go up to? We're going to go up to negative 3 times 2 to the 8 minus 1 power. Now, if I want to add all these up, I can do it manually. I can do it this way. Write out all 8 terms, evaluate them in my calculator, and then add them up by typing them in. But here's the easier way to do it. Now, the best way to get good at this is by practicing, not by reading steps. So follow along with me with your TI-83 or TI-84 calculator. I'm going to go to the calculator. I'll clear my main screen. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to go into the lists. Now that's under the stat button. See where the stat button is? Now I'm going to just hit enter because I want to go to option 1, which is edit. Now you'll find yourself in these lists here. You have L1, L2, and L3. Those are just the names of the lists for list 1, list 2, and list 3. If you followed along with this in class, you might have some data in here. Now here's how you delete, because after the first example, you're going to need this anyway. I'm going to highlight the title. So you see I've got L1 highlighted. I'm going to hit clear and then enter. And that's going to clear the whole list. The whole column is now empty. Do the same thing. Use the arrows. I'm going to move up to L2. I'm going to hit clear, and I'm going to hit enter. Now in L1, I'm going to put my input values. So what input values? Well, they wanted me to go from 1 to 8. So 1, enter. 2, enter. 3, enter. 4, enter. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So those are the values that I want to put into the function. Now, I want to use the values in L1 to plug into the function. So here's how this works. Essentially, I'm looking at this function that they gave me right here, and I'm going to take the x, and I'm going to turn it instead into an L1. So all you're doing is taking the variable in the function and replacing it with L1, so we can tell the calculator to pull those values from list 1 and put them in there for x. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the title of L2, because we want to define the whole column. We're going to hit enter. Now I want my function to be -3 times 2 raised to the, well, in our case it was x minus 1, right? So we had x minus 1. But where are my x values located? They're located over here in list 1, over on the left-hand side. Over. Oh no, I can't move up. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, to get L1 as a variable, I'm going to hit second L1. So that's right above the 1 key. So second 1 will give you L1. And now I can hit enter. Now those are the values. If you want to do it by hand, you would get the same exact ones. If you need to see that again, back up the video a second. Now, in order to sum these up, I could do it by hand, but I wouldn't like to. I would like to use the calculator again. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to quit to the main screen by hitting second mode. Now, under the list functions, which is under second stat, that's the list, I can go over to math, and I can choose sum, which is option 5. That's the sum. Which list do I want to sum up to add up all the values in? Our input values were in L1, but our output values, the results, those are in L2. So I'm going to hit second 2 to put L2 in there. Now we hit enter, and we get -765. So that's the full process for how to use the calculator to do this. If you're rusty at all on this, I recommend that you watch this part and you try it as applied to the questions on your homework. It's really, really important to get good at using the lists and these functions to learn where things are in your calculator, because we're going to need them later for the statistics unit anyway. So the answer to this one, without having to write all that, was -765. Now, let's cover how to do the back of the sheet. The back of the sheet requires us to create the series notation. All right, those are my instructions to create the series notation. So the way that you do that is 2 steps. You create the explicit sequence notation, and then you place the sigma and the domain values. Now, the explicit sequence notation can be found on our reference sheet. So I'll do an example with you, and I'm going to do a complicated example just in case you were having any issues with it, which is question number 29. Now, question number 29. The first thing I need to ask myself is it arithmetic or geometric? Arithmetic is plus or minus. Geometric is times. So if you look at this and you're seeing these numbers and you're not sure if it's arithmetic or geometric, what I could do is I could try subtracting 2 of them in the calculator and see like what the difference is between them, to see if maybe it was an addition, like plus D, that created these. But typically when we see fractions, what we're dealing with is multiplication, and I can guarantee you that it actually is. If you wanted to test that, you could always come see me, because I don't want to explain that in this video. Now, if I want to find the ratio, because I can agree that it's geometric. What I can say is that to go from one number to the next number is multiplying by r. So times r, which is the ratio, times r times r. So I can use that knowledge to create an equation. This right here tells me that 4 times r equals negative 4/3. And you could do that with any pair of values in the list, any pair. Now, how do I get r by itself? I divide both sides by 4. This looks a little complicated, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll throw it into my calculator and see what comes out. Negative 4/3 divided by 4. Negative 4/3 divided by 4. Ugly decimal, so let's do math, enter, enter. Oh, negative 1/3. Well, that's simple. So r equals negative 1/3. That's my r value. I should write equals r. Now, in order to create the explicit sequence notation, I'm going to want to look at my reference sheet. The reference sheet says that the template for this is a sub n equals a sub 1 times r to the n minus 1 power. The two things that I should know are a sub 1 and r. Now r we just found, we got that. And what about a sub 1? Well, that's our first term, that's 4. So this is equal to 4 times negative 1/3 to the n minus 1 power. And the last thing that I have to do is I have to take into account how many terms. What number of terms are we doing? Well, this right here says we are doing 7 terms. So I'm going to take this right here. I'm going to throw a sigma in front of it. 4 times negative 1/3 to the n minus 1. And this is going to go from n equals 1, always, to 7, because that's how many terms they said they wanted. Okay, I hope that helps. Try to use this video to guide you past any missteps, any issues, and if anything remains, ask me in class tomorrow.